Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are strapping on our organizational readiness goggles.
We are.
Because we're diving deep into the future of work and specifically the adoption of these really powerful AI tools like Copilot. But here's the thing. We're not here to talk about the cool new features. We're here to talk about the brick walls that organizations run into.
That is absolutely the mission. I mean, we've all seen it. Organizations spend millions, literally millions, on licensing these tools, only to see them just sort of languish, unused, or even worse, deployed incorrectly, which creates huge risk.
Right.
So our goal today is to give you a critical shortcut. We are unpacking what we're calling the 12 Copilot readiness signs.
Okay.
Think of these as the organizational red flags, the big obstacles that tell you an enterprise is just not ready to successfully integrate AI.
And we've grouped these 12 signs into themes, right? To give you a bit more clarity. We're starting with the why and the who. We're calling it strategic intent and human factors.
Exactly. And if you don't nail this first section, well, the rest is kind of irrelevant.
So let's just jump in.
Let's do it. Sign number 1, and this really sets the stage for everything else. No clear use case.
Oh, this is the classic. An organization buys thousands of licenses, gets everyone in a room, and then asks, okay, now what do we actually do with this?
Yeah.
Why is starting with the shiny tool such a huge pitfall?
Because you can't get any real benefit if you don't know exactly where you're going to plug this thing into your day-to-day work.
Right.
The AI is designed to solve a problem.
Yeah.
But if you haven't even defined the problem, it just becomes this expensive piece of shelfware.
So a good use case isn't just we want to be more productive.
No, not at all. It's we want to cut down the time our legal team spends summarizing compliance documents by, say, 40%. That's specific. That's measurable.
And it's actionable. And if you don't have that, you're not just wasting money.
Yeah.
You're creating this friction where employees just write it off as another corporate tool we're never going to use.
And that's the spiral of failure we want you to avoid. Which, leads us right to the people side of things. Let's talk about sign 3. No AI champions.
Okay, so this is about having that internal person, that internal driver. You can't just rely on outside consultants for this, can you?
You really can't. An AI champion is, well, they're essential for building that internal know-how and, more importantly, translating the tech features into actual business value.
Someone who gets it.
Someone who gets it and who's passionate. They bridge that gap between the IT department and, the sales team or the marketing team.
Yeah.
Without that person driving pilots, getting feedback, the whole thing just fizzles out.
And that leadership gap, it feels like it connects directly to the next sign, number 4. Fear of mistakes. This feels a bit counterintuitive.
It does, but it's so important.
You'd think with new tech you'd want to be careful. But the sources all say you need psychological safety.
Because generative AI requires experimentation. It's not a toaster. You don't just push a button.
Right.
It's a capability that your employees have to learn by interacting with it. And if they're in a culture where they're terrified of making a mistake or giving it a wrong prompt,
We'll just avoid it.
they'll completely avoid it. They'll go back to the old, safe, manual way of doing things, and your multi-million-dollar investment just sits there.
So you need a clear purpose, a dedicated leader, and a safe space for people to, try and fail and learn.
That's the trifecta. That wraps up our first group.
Excellent. So if that first section was about your destination, this next one feels like it's about making sure the bridge you're building is actually stable, foundational integrity and governance.
This is where organizational maturity or immaturity really starts to show. And let's go back to sign number 2 here, which is a great indicator of this. A fix-it-later culture.
Okay, paint a picture for us. What does that look like in the real world?
Imagine an organization that knows its internal data is a complete mess.
Silos everywhere.
Silos everywhere, no standards, but instead of fixing that first, they buy the AI license, hoping the shiny new tool will magically clean up their process after it's deployed.
That sounds familiar.
It's a huge problem. It shows a total lack of governance of any real framework for how to adopt this stuff. It's reactive, not proactive.
But isn't there pressure to just move fast?
No.
To just deploy and figure it out as you go?
Of course, but you have to frame this as risk reduction. A fix-it-later approach almost always leads to a massive data leak or some compliance breach that forces you to shut the whole project down anyway.
So it's pay now or pay a lot more later.
Exactly. Better to be proactive and a little slower than fast and, catastrophic.
Speaking of catastrophe, that leads us perfectly to sign 5, security missing. So often the security and legal teams are just brought in at the very end for a final sign-off.
And that is a fatal mistake with Gen AI. The timing here is everything. They have to be involved from day one, from the very beginning.
Why is that so critical?
Because when you integrate something like Copilot, you're essentially connecting a massive language model to your most sensitive internal data.
Through retrieval augmented generation, or RAG.
Right. The model is grounding its answers in your internal documents, your strategy docs, your HR files, everything. If security isn't built in from the ground up, you're just asking for the AI to accidentally leak proprietary information.
You can't just bolt on a security patch at the end.
Absolutely not. And all of this is useless without the right fuel. Which brings us to sign 6. Data is a mess.
The old classic, garbage in, garbage out. How is that amplified with enterprise AI?
It's amplified massively. In consumer AI, garbage in, garbage out means a bad prompt gets you a weird answer.
Right.
In enterprise AI, it means your incredibly powerful system is grounding its supposedly factual answers on outdated, inaccurate, or just terribly structured internal files. Think shared drives full of PDFs from 10 years ago.
So the AI isn't just wrong, it can be.
Yeah.
Confidently and brilliantly wrong. It sounds authoritative because it's citing your own internal documents.
That's the danger. It's organizational misinformation at scale. And that messiness just gets compounded by the next sign, number 7. No defined workflows.
This feels like a classic business school problem, but how does a lack of process break a new AI tool specifically?
Well, AI thrives on structure. It loves patterns. If your invoice processing is done 3 different undocumented ways depending on which team is doing it.
The AI has no idea which process to learn or automate.
Exactly. You get these fragmented, inconsistent results. And eventually people just abandon the tool because it's impossible to maintain or scale. It just becomes a custom toy for a few people.
It sounds like the big takeaway here is you really have to clean your house before you invite the AI system to move in.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Okay, so let's move to our third and final area. We can have the best strategy, the cleanest data. But if the organization's mindset is stuck in the past, the whole thing just falls apart.
This section is all about maturity, mindset, and realistic expectations. And we start with a fascinating one. Sign 8. Shadow AI is here.
Right. This is when teams get so frustrated with the slow official systems that they start using their own unapproved AI tools, maybe their personal ChatGPT account or something.
Exactly. And the key insight here is to see that not just as a compliance problem, but as a symptom.
A symptom of what?
Of organizational inefficiency.
Yeah.
Your employees are trying to solve problems that the official approved systems are failing to address. The solution isn't just to ban the tools.
It's to ask why they felt the need to go outside the system in the first place.
That is the critical pivot in thinking, which leads to another clash with reality. Sign 9. ROI before enablement.
I can just hear the CFO in the room asking for the return on investment numbers in month 2.
Of course. But the mistake is expecting measurable returns before you've done the proper setup, the data labeling, the integration.
So how do you manage that expectation? How do you sell a 3 to 6 month enablement phase when the pressure's on for quarterly results?
You have to frame enablement as a direct investment in security and long-term success, not just training. It's not optional. Trying to skip that setup phase to rush to ROI is just. It's trading short-term appearances for long-term failure.
You have to invest first to earn the right to ask for the return later.
That's the reality. And that connects to sustainability, which is sign 10, the one-time mindset.
This is treating AI like you're installing Microsoft Office,
Yeah.
right? You buy it, you set it up, and you don't touch it again for 5 years.
And that is completely unsustainable. AI is not a static piece of software. It needs continuous iteration, continuous learning, constant updates as the models evolve.
So if you treat it like a one-time project.
They're basically guaranteeing it'll be obsolete within a couple of years, if not sooner.
Okay, sign 11, manual everywhere, points to a low level of digital maturity. It's almost a prerequisite issue.
It is a prerequisite. AI is an accelerator. It doesn't build the car from scratch. It integrates best where you already have digital tools, where data is already structured and flowing.
So if your organization still runs on paper forms and, verbal approvals,
AI is just going to hit a brick wall. It won't have the clean inputs it needs to function. So really, your digital transformation has to come before your AI acceleration.
your AI readiness is really just a mirror reflecting your current digital maturity.
A very honest mirror. And that brings us to the final sign, number 12, which might be the biggest expectation gap of all. Power on and perform.
The idea that you can just flip a switch and it will work perfectly, because that's what it looks like when you use the consumer version.
Exactly. But there's a huge difference between a consumer appliance and an industrial enterprise system. Enterprise AI needs setup, it needs integration with your APIs, it needs fine-tuning for your security rules.
And it needs to be trained on your unique data.
It needs all of that. You can't just turn it on for 10,000 employees on day one and expect perfection. It's a process.
So while ChatGPT might write a decent email for you instantly, the enterprise version needs months of work to make sure the email it writes complies with 6 different regulations.
That is the difference. It's an application versus a deep system integration.
Wow. So that's the full 12 signs across strategy, foundations, and mindset, from having no use case at all to expecting it to work like magic on day one.
And the main takeaway from our deep dive today is just so clear. You have to address these signs before you jump in. If you don't, you're building a very expensive, very unstable house on very shaky ground.
So for anyone listening right now who is recognizing some of these red flags in their own organization, what are the first steps? What's the immediate action plan?
The sources are pretty clear on this. 3 things. First, focus like a laser on fixing the readiness signs you've identified, especially the foundational ones like data and security.
Okay.
Second, go build a few clear, high-value use cases that an internal champion can really own and drive.
And
third, make sure your governance and support systems are actually in place. That foundational work is what determines everything that comes after.
excellent. Let me leave you with one final thought to mull over, one that connects 2 of these signs.
If sign 8, shadow AI is here, means your employees are using unapproved tools. Is the problem really the tool they're using? Or is it the underlying fix-it-later culture that created the void they were just trying to fill? It makes you think about which root problem you really need to solve first. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.